I would like to welcome you on behalf of Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, and would like to say a few words in the beginning about the foundation. The KAS is a German political foundation with projects in more than 120 countries. We established a new office in Stockholm back in autumn 2019, which I have the honor to represent. Our events and research projects cover the whole Nordic region. And building a bridge between the Nordics and Germany is one of our main goals, especially when it helps to enhance mutual understanding and to create a common sense about the political future of our respective countries. We trust that confidence building is the basis for stable politics in the European Union and beyond its borders. Essential for our work is as well to engage with a network of politicians, experts, and journalists who share our values and are interested in the various formats of dialogue we offer. As Germany is having a turbulent election year, ending with federal elections on September 2021, we have decided to ask people in the Nordic countries who have a certain long-term relation to Germany to tell us about their perspective. Today, I'm going to speak with Anders Ydstedt, who is joining us from Skåne in the south of Sweden. Anders Ydstedt is a well-known advisor to business organizations and enterprises. He's also the chairman and owner of Svensk Tidskrift, a liberal conservative weekly magazine. And he has been a policy advisor to the Confederation of Swedish Enterprise for many years. I know, Anders, your German is actually excellent, so we could have easily led this interview in German. Please share with us, and that would be my first question to you. How did you become interested in knowing and learning the language? And also, what was your first experience with Germany? Anders.
Yeah, thank you, Gabriele. Thanks for having me here. My relationship with Germany and German language started with my father, who was always interested in Germany, and he always read German papers, and we had that at home. And as a kid, we had good friends in the family, neighbors that moved to Hessen, to Gießen and Marburg, and we visited them many on vacations or so we spent in that area as a youngster and so on. So that was my first experience. So, and then I actually inherited my father's books from when he was reading German in a German language, grammar book for. That was much better than the books we had in Swedish schools in the 1970s. So I got a little bit head off in front of my fellow friends in the class with that better, I think so. And later on, as a student, I worked on the ferries between Sweden and Denmark and East Germany, and visited. I was a slot machine repairman as a student, so I had a lot of time on the ferries to reading and so on. So I used to go in Sassnitz-Hafen when the ferry stopped for 1 hour and go up to the bookstore and buy Neues Deutschland or other very low-cost books and political books from East Germany. And once I actually got arrested and got held in custody by the East German border police for some hours, and I really saw the Iron Curtain and passed it so many times. So I got really interested in mobility and the importance of free mobility, and that was actually the start of my great interest in mobility. I've written several books about that, but I think that was perhaps one of my strongest experiences youngster to be held by the East German border police. That was probably not so long time, but for me it felt like ages before I was interrogated for like 1 hour or something like that. And later on I've been a subscriber of the Spiegel magazines in 1987. That's for ages, and try to read German papers, and I visited Germany many times every year and so on. I found out that that's been a really great investment in my career in some way, and good investment. I learned more about German business and politics, and that helped me to get. I help Swedish business organizations and companies, and vice versa, also German business organizations, where how to understand politics and business in the countries and so on, and try to build bridges between different actors and so on. So it's for me it has been a good idea to learn the German language at an early age, and I think more people should do that.
Yeah, thank you. That's true, because now I hear that not so many young people actually learn German, because you don't have to anymore in schools. It's not the second language after English you could be offered to learn. So yeah, that's really interesting what you described, that you learned it from old books and also your own experience, your personal experience by traveling to the former GDR. So you have ever since followed German politics, not only as a subscriber to the Spiegel magazine, I suppose, but that was, I think, also very, very important for you. And as I also follow the Svensk Tidskrift, I think it's perhaps one of the few Swedish magazines where you can regularly read comments about politics in Germany. News coverage in Swedish media, I would say, about Germany generally lags behind the coverage of the latest news from the United States or the UK. At least this is my observation after 1.5 years living and working in Stockholm. So what would you say? What would you say that Germany and the role of the European Union is discussed enough in the Nordic countries, and especially in Sweden? And if not, why isn't it discussed more? Please, Anders.
Yeah, I agree. I think you start to say it. I think many Swedes will miss Angela Merkel, not perhaps before her politics, but because she's the only name they really know from German politics, and it took many years for them to learn Merkel, and I think it's a problem that many Swedes, they read about Germany in English, in Anglo-Saxon papers and so on, and not directly and so on, and a lot they lost a lot of what's really said and so on. I think we have to build more direct bridges between our countries. I think Germany, Germany is our most important business partner, and this difference in media is perhaps not found if you go to visit Swedish family businesses in South Sweden, in Småland, or you visit major Swedish industry. You will find a lot of people talking German, interested in German politics and so on, because they have strong relationships on business and industry. But when you go to media and politics, there is not the corresponding they have not the corresponding interest in learning about Germany and what's happening in German politics. And I think that's the news coverage is really, it's not very it's almost actually lousy, I say, except for the Swedish public radio and Dagens Nyheter and the newcomer Erik Thyselius at Access. I think that's the best coverage on German politics. And we had an article some years ago that we compared the how Swedish media cover the primary elections in the US. And a lot of Swedish reporters, they go around in small cities around in the Midwest, in Iowa, following the start of the primaries and look at every details. And we have important elections in the federal states in Germany that's never covered at all. It's so big difference in media coverage in Swedish media about Germany, and I think that's not very good, because we should have much more stronger relations between Germany and Sweden. We try in Svensk Tidskrift to do something. We have some regular chroniclers from Germany writing, and we also have Swedes trying to write about what they see in Germany. But I think language is the key problem, actually, and that's the Swedes that are not interested enough in German. I think there are more Germans learning Swedish language than the opposite.
Oh, okay, interesting. But do you think that it could improve? I mean, if people would learn more German, or how could you get Swedes more interested in German language and also in German politics? I mean, do you have a suggestion?
I think I think should have more people should see how good it is to know the German, how good it is for business, how good it is, how much culture they lose contact with if they don't read and understand German language. I think they lose a lot of ideas and opportunities. So I think we should talk more about that, and all of us Swedes that are interested in Germany, I think it's a responsibility on us to really speak out about that.
Thank you.
And I think probably the core of such movement should be like from the business and the Chamber of Commerce and yeah, that's where you have the strongest connections today, I think.
Yeah. Good. So when we see it in a broader context, what in your view is Germany's role in Europe, or what should its role be? So we spoke about Swedish-German connections, but Germany's role in Europe, what would you say?
I think Germany is and should be the industrial engine. I think the industry important, protecting good business climate, and also I think understanding the role of the family businesses. That's important, but also being skeptical to European Union projects like protecting European champions and regulating business and free trade. Also, I am always impressed about in politics the defense of the Schwarze Null, that always keep the state finance in a good shape. A little bit worried about that today, but I think that there is a real good tradition in Germany about having good finance and be afraid of inflation, and so that's good. And also, of course, in a political aspect, it's to be an active protector of the European Union, but also have reason in that project, but give some reason in that project.
Yeah, this brings me to my next questions. The September's elections in Germany. The Green Party is nowadays leading in the polls, followed by a weakened CDU, CSU, and the Social Democrats are somewhere between 15% and 17%. So you could say that 4 months ahead of the election date, it seems pretty possible that there will be a new government led by the Greens after September, most likely in a coalition with CDU-CSU, or it could be a government by the CDU-CSU in a coalition with the Greens. This would be my personal guess, but there are also other options for coalition building as well. So what do you think? You mentioned that Sweden will miss Angela Merkel, but how do you expect Sweden to react to a possible new Green German government after 16 years of Angela Merkel's era? Would that maybe also have an impact on the future development of the Swedish Greens and wider politics in Sweden? Yeah, could you say a few words about?
Absolutely. I think there is a lot of people look a lot about in Sweden to the success from the German Greens, and I think the lessons we can learn is they have been very successful being green, but not so much being red and more socialist. And I think we can see in the history that they have had real good figures in the polls before elections, and then they have spoken up more about red politics in increasing taxes and so on, and then the figures has went down again. So they have to be aware of being more green than red. We have seen that before, but we can also, I think also we can say that the Angela Merkel during her regime, she has legitimized green positions instead of perhaps finding out her own policies. And I think that's the lesson from other countries, that center-right positions, parties must have their own green policy. They cannot just adopt Green Party policies. And I think the same can happen if center-right parties in Sweden or other European countries adopt green policies. They will lose voters to the Greens, and instead they should find out their own green agenda. For instance, cars, agree on greener cars, combating emissions and so on, but not agree on fighting cars. This will hurt businesses, they will hurt environment, and they will eventually lose their voters to the green parties. So I think that's an interesting. I think that's my view on what's happening in German politics now, that Angela Merkel has moved the political debate into the green area, but not finding out their own policies on that area. And if people are more interested in green questions, then of course they choose the original, the Green Party, if the center-right party doesn't have their own smarter positions protecting ownership and market economy and so on.
Thank you for that position. German politics, I think that's very important to listen to. And this is I think it's also important for Sweden and other countries in the Nordics to understand what changes we are expecting in foreign and security policy after the election. So do you think there might be a change, or do we expect any changes? We spoke about foreign policy within the European Union or beyond its borders. Do we expect anything new, any changes?
I don't think in the security and foreign policy, I'm not so thinking that will be so much change with the new government, either if it's a socialist or it should be a green, black government. I think important issues for us is like, will Germany keep its promise to NATO to come up to perhaps not promise, but the Americans want 2% military of GDP for military budget. It doesn't seem to be either way if who wins the elections, but also not the Greens. And what happened with pipeline projects like Nord Stream 2 and so on. That's also, I'm not sure if there will be any big difference if change of government in that kind of areas. And I think the Greens are as interested in European policy that as the other parties. So I think that not very much difference perhaps in that area. And still it's interesting to see that how much focus it is on Nord Stream 2, but Germany is very much dependent on Russian oil, and that's probably a bigger business, actually, a bigger relation between Russia and Germany than the gas pipeline. But yeah, that's a realpolitik and politics. It's some difference.
Yeah, I would agree with you that even under Green government, the foreign policy will not change.
We can let's remember that Germany had a Green foreign minister, and that was I think Germany didn't lose any positions in foreign policy during that time.
Yeah.
With Joschka Fischer at that time.
Yeah. True. Okay, so then I would like to come to my last question. As you are someone who has been throughout the whole life been interested in Germany, what do you think Sweden can learn from Germany, and the other way around, what can Germany learn from Sweden?
I think Sweden could learn a lot from Germany. I think the family businesses, Mittelstand, Familienunternehmer, that's very important base for a nation to have, for jobs and for development of products and so on. And I also think the German knows that inflation is a bad thing, and I think we in Sweden should also have the same policy, schwarze Null, and keep the finances in good shape. And also that industry is important for the future. In Sweden, we had a prime minister saying that the industry is basically dead. That's not my view. But most important that we could learn from Germany, I think, is the federal system with division of power between Bundesrat and the Constitutional Court. Sweden has no such thing in reality. And I think in that sense, Sweden is not really a liberal democracy. And we have a very loose protection of minorities. So that's what I think we could learn from Germany. Looking at the other way, I think what Germans could learn from Sweden. I think many Germans have a good perception about Sweden and know a lot about Sweden. They read about Sweden, and more Germans speak Swedish language than the opposite way, and so on. So I think the interest in Sweden is much bigger from Germany than from Sweden. So I think I don't have so long list of things that the Germans already know, but I think one thing could be that abolished inheritance tax. That I think should be a good idea. The Swedish example with abolishing the inheritance tax in 2004 has been a really success story. That is a thing you could adopt, and especially since you have this big interest in family businesses, I think that could be a good policy for Germany to adopt from Sweden.
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, thank you for your insight, for your commitment to Germany, and also for these very, very concrete suggestions you made on German politics and also on economy. We appreciate that, and it's really good to be in a dialogue with people who know Germany and who have this kind of suggestions. So thank you very much for this interview.
Thanks having me.
Thanks so much, Anders.
Yeah, thanks.
All the best for you.
It was just fun.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.